So something everyone usually has to deal with is some amount of writing. So here we have on the bracelet, the writing. There's also writing on the camera and in other spots. Most of you are gonna have writing. And the thing to notice, one, is usually, very rarely, is writing just where you just copy the letter. You know, here if I've got this, it's black letter. So, you know, if I'm copying the on, off, you know, one, I wanna really, really avoid my schema and not think, how do I wanna try to copy that font to the best of my ability and really try to look at what I'm seeing. And then, you know, I'm going to go in and do the little icons and really try to work on all those details, right? But rarely are you writing normally. Usually what you're doing is the outline of letters. And letters, because they're on objects, they warp and they go. So a couple things that I did. One, of course, I'm starting with my 2H pencil. Always want to do 2H. And I very lightly, because this is kind of warped and curved, I drew a very thin, light guideline across the top and the bottom, so I know my letters need to fit in between those curves. And then I went and I kind of did what I thought was the outline of the letters. Now I can go in and I can start adding my value. Now it's important, if I fold this paper over, I'm going to notice actually on my drawing, these letters, even though they look white, they actually, when I put this up, they're actually a light gray. Very rarely are things really white. So I might take my 2H pencil and I might go over and very, very lightly, in a way where you can barely tell. I might put a little bit of value on all of this, just so we've got that, right? And then I can go in, and now really what I'm working on is, am I shading and adding value into my bracelet? Now, I really don't have anything that's so light that I could get away. I could probably do a little bit of 2H for like this rim right here, you know, and so I'm gonna use a little bit of the 2H and I'm gonna shade. I'm doing my little ovals, and I'm gonna go quick for the sake of you all, so that you don't have to watch me do this for a million years. But then I can go in, and now I can switch to my HB pencil. I'll probably be able to do this whole bracelet in HB. I don't think it gets dark enough that I would need my 4H, maybe a little bit in there, we'll see. But what I'm doing, you're gonna notice, is I'm going in and I'm trying to be very, very faint. Hopefully I drew my guidelines faint enough that I can just shade right over them, and you're not gonna see that guideline, it's gonna disappear. But I'm being really delicate and just barely going in these gaps in between my letters. But I'm trying to do a nice consistent shade and a nice consistent style, so it's smooth. I'm doing my little ovals. And that's given me a pretty crisp writing, you know, that's going pretty decently. And then this can fade up into the lighter value that it needs to fade into as it gets near the edge. And now my letters look like they've been printed really like on the bracelet. They're really following the contour of the bracelet. It's not exact. I might need to thicken this a little bit, the inside part, to make my writing look a little bit thinner. But as I go in and I try to thin and just evenly shade around the letters, and I'm going in, and again, I'm never just scribbling in and filling in. I'm really trying to match the value to the shape, and I can clean that up as I need to go. Hopefully that works. Now I'm going to speed this up. I'm going to sort of pause, and then I'll come back once I've done a little bit more. Okay, so I finished shading it in with my 2H and then my HB, and you can see I've gone in and I've tried to just kind of even out my values. It might get a little darker over here, and I just brought my 4B pencil into the mix, and I can start to integrate slightly darker values. The really important thing is that I'm just going around really, really delicately and really, really carefully, because by shading in the area around my letters, rather than really worrying about letters, I'm treating them as shapes. So letters are a tough thing because you can read them and you know what they say and you know what they mean. So you're gonna your temptation is just to write them. You've been able to write letters for a long time, right? But instead what we're gonna do is we're gonna treat them just as abstract shapes, just like we've been doing every value. And we're really just looking at the individual values of what's going on so that we're not worrying about, what's my idea of what the object should look like, but am I matching the shapes and am I matching the values that I see in my artwork? So as I go in, I can do this, and this will give me a pretty three-dimensional, bracelet for whoever chose this object. But I can go in and I just need to kind of really work on matching my values. And if I make a little mistake, that's okay. I've got my little eraser. I can clean that up a little bit. I can always go back in. And again, I think sometimes you want to go in first with your HB, make sure things are working. And then you're good to go. But be careful not to just write. Really treat everything almost like you're writing it the first time when you're getting in there and you're establishing the shape of the letters. Treat it like what you do like a bubble letter. Really, we're going around the outline and the outside. And then that's going to give you something that feels, that has the right amount of warp and distortion so it matches what you're seeing in real life. That's it.